Good afternoon, students. This is Mr. Gee again. We're trying to get through a tutoring session to help many of you that will be in class Friday. I know your grades are kind of wanting as far as, they're not where they really need to be and where they deserve to be. So hopefully with this review that we're going to do today, it'll better prepare you to retake the quiz that has to do with these rates of change and that you can get a better grade. So why don't we get started here, and let's go ahead and do some reading. It says after 10 weeks Aaron had $485, and after 23 weeks he had $975. Just plot the data on the graph below, and then we need to have a few questions that we have to answer. So first of all, let's circle what we know to be our ordered pair. So we've got 10 weeks and $485. Let's go ahead and write that down here. Remember your units. So you've got 10 weeks. And we've got $485. And then our other ordered pair is 23 weeks. And we've got $975. Alright. Now once we identify our ordered pair, what we need to identify is what our units are. And the best way to find out what your units are is take a look at where you have your two labels on this graph. We know the distance between 5 and 10 is 10 minus 5 is 5, and that 5 is divided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. So that tells us each one of these are worth 1. From here all the way up to here, each one of them are worth 1. And sometimes people assume they're 1 and they're not, so you've got to make sure what your units are before you start graphing. Okay? Let me erase this now. Let's take a look at our y-axis, or for our dependent variable. If I take a look at 460 and 300, if I take 460, subtract 300 from it, I get 160. And I can see that it's divided into 2 units, so I divide that by 2. It tells me each one of these units are worth $80. Okay? So now we know what our units are worth. So we've got to remember what they're worth, and when we plot and when we do other things, we have to keep that in mind. So I'm going to change colors here, and let me think here. I'll just go ahead and keep red. Let's go ahead and start our graph. So we've got to go down to 10 weeks, which is along this line right here. I would go ahead and kind of mark that so you don't lose that, because sometimes it's easy to get on the wrong one. So I'm at 10 weeks, and at 10 weeks I'm $485. Well, I can see here is 460. I know that has to be 80 more. Well, I don't want to go 80 more. All I want to go is about 20 more. Well, 20 is a fourth of 80, so if I estimate that to be a fourth, this is where that next point has to be, is right there on that X. See, 480 all the way across hits that 10, so there's where that point is. So why don't you go ahead and think about what I've done here and mark that first point. Let me erase this other stuff here. Now we're going to do the same down here at our other point, and that point is at 23 weeks. So go down here, let's mark 23 weeks, and then I'm going to give me some indicators here all along so I make sure that I mark that axis up here at 975. Well, I know that 940 plus this 80 is 1020. Well, that's too high, isn't it? Well, if I drop down 40, that gives me 980, and I want to be at 985 or 975, so that's really close to where that point needs to be. So that line right there has to be about 975. this point down here on the horizontal axis has to be around about, has to be at 485. So both of them are right where they need to be. Okay. And graphing these points correctly is very, very important. If you don't graph them correctly, you will not get the right count when you do your horizontal and vertical counts. All right, let's go ahead and let's graph these two lines. So I'm going to get out my ruler. You can get out your ruler. Put one end of your ruler there, one end of your ruler there, and then I need to get me my pen out. I got my eraser out. So there's where that line goes. And there's the point right there. Okay? And now I'm going to draw me a couple of other lines. I know, and why don't you do this on your paper so you'll be able to see this. I know vertically that this line at 485 runs, well, it runs all along here. And then up here, this line for 975 runs all along there. Now we're going to come around here and I'm going to change this, and we're going to come down here at 10 and at 10. So don't make these lines very dark on your paper, make them kind of light. So I've got that one there. Let's go down ahead and let's make this one here. I should make those in different colors. Let me make this one in that green, and I'll come down here, we'll make this one in green as well. There we go. Let's color over this, make it nice and dark. Okay. So let's talk about horizontal change and vertical change here, and we're going to do this in blue. So from here to this point here is horizontal. We know that's important to our change in slope because the horizontal change is what we use for the denominator. So here we know that each one of these units are 1, so let's count these. They're worth 1, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that's 13 weeks on the horizontal chain. So down here we'll put 13 weeks. Now that's the easy part. The hard part is doing the vertical change. The vertical change is how this changes along these axes. See, I start here at 485, I go up here to 975, right? And that is 975. So how far is it from there to there? Well, when you count it, you can't count these as holes, because look, they're not a hole. They only go from there to there. That only goes from there to there. So these are not whole pieces. But I can count this from there to there. Those are whole numbers. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those, and each one is worth $80. So when we do this vertical count, we know we're going to have 6 times 80. That equals 480. Now, did I count that right? See, 1, 2, 3. Yep, there's 6. No, there's not 6. There's only 5. So let me erase that. I knew I counted that wrong. See, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 5 times 80 is 400. So now we know there's $400 in full units. Now what we have to do is figure out what the distance between here and here is. Well, that's 975. This is 940. So take that number for 940 and subtract it from 975, and that gives you $35. Let's come down here. We know this line right here is 485. Well, what's this line right here, this blue one I'm marking? Well, we know that's 460 plus 80 is 540. This line is 540. This line right here is 485. So let's take 540 minus 485. Well, let's subtract 10. 5, 13 is 5, so that's 55. So now when we take a calculator and add all those up, we get $490. So the change in money from here to here is $490. The change in weeks from here to here is that 13 weeks. So now we know our vertical change divided by our horizontal change. So we know that is 490. So $490 over 13 weeks. Now down here, when we find the rate by subtraction, subtracting the $2 amounts, the 2 weeks amount, this is what we're going to use for a check. This tells us that we did our graphing right and we did all our counting right. So we're going to take that 975 and we're going to subtract the 485. And then the 13 weeks, we're going to subtract, what was that, 23 minus 10 weeks. And what do we get? Well, 975, plug that in my calculator, subtract 485. I get 490, so that tells me I did the vertical one correct. Now let's do the bottom one. Well, 23 minus 10, that's 13 weeks. So that checks out. I found my rate of change by subtraction, and I found it by counting, and so we've done our graph right, and everything's exactly where it's supposed to be. Okay. Okay, now our next question that we have asks, what is the rate of change of money in a savings account per week? Well, most of you know how to do that. You take the rate of change per 13 weeks. Well, I want for 1 week, so you divide the bottom by 13. That gives us 1 week. 13 divided by 13 is 1. Then you divide the top by 13. That gives us 490 divided by 13. Gives us $37.69, so we're going to round that off to $38 per week. Okay, now the next question we ask, and it's been cut off down here, is how much does he save per month? Well, we know that there's 52 weeks in a year. Some of you may assume that we can take a week and times it by 4 and get a month. That's 28 days. There's only 1 month out of the year that has 28 days, and that's February. All the other ones have 2 more or 3 more, so that's not the case. So how we're going to calculate how much he makes, how much he saves each month is we're going to take 52, because we know there's 52 weeks in a year, and we're going to times it by how much he makes in 1 week. So we want to change weeks to years. We take the $38 per 1 week. We times it by 52 to get 52 weeks, which is a year, and we times 52 on the bottom. We also have to times 52 to the top. So 38 times 52, that gives me $1,976. Okay. I'm going to come over here and finish this. Now we know what it is for a year. So how do we change a year to a month? Just divide it by 12. There's 12 months in a year, so I divide that by 12. That'll give me 1 month, and I do it to the top. It's division by 12, right? So 1976 divided by 12. He saves $165. It's really $164.67. We'll run it off to $165 per month. So that finishes question number 1. So the things that you're having problems with, if I can pull this out, is a lot of you aren't counting these right. So make sure you find out what each unit is worth. Remember, these were worth 80. These down here were worth 1. And also another problem that you're finding is having a hard time finding is these pieces right through here. See, that is not a full unit going up and down. So you've got to find out what that value is here, and you have to find out what that value is here. How much is that vertical piece there worth? In this case right here, that one was worth, what was it, 35? And down here, this piece along here was worth, what was it, 55. Alright, so this is question number 1 on the review. Let me pause the video and I'll get set up for question number 2. Okay, question number 3. On the back side, we've already did number 1. This question asks, below is a graph that shows Ariel's rate of savings each week. It says find the rate of change, dollars versus weeks, by counting the units. Vertical change over horizontal change. You won't have to you can do this either way. I'll let you do it this way or that way. It doesn't matter. But we may do it both ways. I think most of you are okay doing it here. So on the quiz, go ahead and use this way. And I'm going to show this way again, just like we did on the first page. Let me think here. Let's not even worry about that. Let's not even make that a part of it. Just cut that out. You're not going to be asked to do that on part number on the second page of the quiz. So the first thing that we've got to do here is we have to find 2 points. As you can see right here, I don't give you any information up here. You've got to pick it off the graph. And we want to find a point, if we can, one that's right on the 4 corners where 4 units meet there in the center. So if we follow this along here, we can see one that's pretty close right there. So what you want to do is you find a point, go ahead and circle it. We can see another one right there. Looks like I have another one there, and I have another one there. So we actually have 4 points along here we could choose. And I'm going to choose this one right here and this one right here. Those are the 2 that I'm going to use. Any of those 4 will really work. If we had the time, we'd use different pairs. Oh, that's the one I wanted to use. I didn't want to erase that, sorry. I want to use that one there. I want to erase that one. So let's go ahead and let's draw our horizontal difference along here. Get my ruler. Where it is right there. So I'm going to move that right here, and that's good. I don't think that's a straight line. There we go. So there's that horizontal difference. So we're right there. So I'm going to pick that point off. That looks like that's 840. And let me come up here. What is that point right there? So I follow this one up, it hits that line. Let me draw that. I'm going to draw this one next. And then we'll find our ordered pair. And let me come down here and draw this one. It's hard to see some of this stuff when you're as old as I am. Oh, that just really flipped around, didn't it? There we go. Okay. So we can see from what I've got here, erase those. So if I follow this line up, it hits that line there and goes over to 840. starts there and I come up this to this point and over. That way I can trace my 2 points. So this looks like these are units of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are units of 2. And if I look right here, these units, there looks like there's 180 between these two. And that 180 is divided by 2. So that says that each one of these units are 90. Make sure you know what your units are before you get too far into the problem, or you're going to end up, pulling your hair out. Okay, so remember the weeks are 2, the dollars are 90. This might be a really good place to write it. So that's $90, and these weeks are each worth 2. So we count at 10. We've got 10. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that has to be 18 weeks. So our first ordered pair is 18 weeks, and let me write it down here, 18 weeks, and it looks like $840. And now if I look at this one, this is 2, 4, 6, so that's 36 weeks. And that go up and over. So each one of these are worth 90, so that is $1,290. So now we got our 2 ordered pair. Let's go ahead and put it in this formula. So we've got $12.90 minus $840 divided by 36 minus 18. So I'll take my calculator, $12.90 minus $840. Gives me $450. And then 36 minus 18, that gives me 18 weeks. So that's the rate of change. So the idea is I give you the line, you pick you out 2 points, and then you trace those points back to get the weeks, you trace it over to get the dollars. Find your point, you trace it down to get the weeks, you trace it over to get the dollars, and once you get your ordered pair, you're going to find the rate of change by subtraction. And now we're ready to go on with the rest of this problem. Let's go ahead and scroll this up a little bit and over. It says, so we found our rate for 18 weeks. Now it says how much does she save per year. Let's go ahead and let's convert this to amount of dollars per week. So that means we're going to divide the bottom by 18. Let me change that to blue. And we're going to divide the top by 18. So that gives me 1 week. 450 divided by 18 will give me exactly $25. So every week he saves $25. Well, how much is that per year? So I'm going to take 25 and 1 week. I know there's 52 weeks per year. So 25 times 52. That gives me $1,300 per year. Not saving a lot. Now, what is the rate of savings per month? Well, we know that $1,300 per year is the same as $1,300 for 12 months. And I want it for 1 month, right? So I'm going to divide the bottom by 12, and I'll divide the top by 12. So I take 1,300, divide it by 12. He saves $108.33 per month, and I'm going to count that as $108 per month. Okay. So that's the second answer. Now it says, how many weeks will it take her to buy a new laptop that costs $1,300? Well, we don't really have to figure that. We're going to come up here and look at the graph, and we're going to find $1,300 on here. And let me do some erasing here so we can see this clearly. Remember how we got our points? I'm just going to erase that so we can see this in blue. So what we have to do here is find $1,300 on this graph. Well, we know that line there is $1,290. Each one of these, half of these is worth 45 because the whole thing's worth 90, right? So 1290 plus 45, let's see what that's worth. 1290 plus 45, that's 1335, and I want it for 1300. So I'm just going to go up, not even half, I'm going to go up right there. Okay, not even half. I'm going to go up, see, I'm going to go up just a little bit above that line. Now take your ruler. Here's my ruler. Move it over here where I want that. And then I'm going to draw me a straight line, as straight as I can, that follows that over to where it hits this line. Let's do that in blue. And then what I do is I put my ruler right on that point, and then I swing it down. Make sure it's as straight as can be, and trace that down. And where that hits the graph is how many weeks. So there's 30, there's 32, 34, 36, that's 38. So you don't want to make a guess what that one is? Yeah, it's 37 weeks. Okay. So how many weeks will it take her to buy a lap cost? It costs $1,300 is 37 weeks. We really didn't do any math as far as, you know, we had to do a little bit of math, mental math, to figure out where we had to plot $1,300, which is right there. But once we get that, we trace it over to the line. When it hits the line, we go straight down, and then there we can see where it hits the x-axis, and that tells us what the weeks are. Okay, so that's how you do the same way here is how you do problem number 4. And number 2 problem is done the same way as problem number 1. So you can rewind the video, go back and look at anything that you need of. What I'd like you to do is work on problems number 2 and 3 for the remainder of the time that we have left in this tutor session. And you're welcome to take these papers home and work on them, and this video will be on YouTube that you can watch as well. Okay, thanks and good luck with this, and I appreciate your patience with me, and I hope I can do a better job. Thanks, bye-bye.